What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy.
What's the good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. So I've been thinking about our two perspective list, our general manager candidates, our head coach candidates, and what may be the prevailing thought process for the New York Jets, for Rick Spielman, for the 33rd team when it comes to deciding who's going to move forward for second interviews, but also in the end product, what kind of pairing are we going to get, right? Are we going to get the best possible head coach and pair them up with the best possible GM and hope that everybody's kind of signed off that it seems like a feasible arrangement? Or are we going to look for a kind of like wholesale buyout, if you will, from another NFL team? You take a look at both of these candidate lists, and I'll have them flashed up here at some point, but there's some easy pairings you can recognize, right? And I'm sure that if I went even deeper into the relationships, you'll see even some more overlaps here, but some of the easiest ones, right? If you want to talk about the organization moving in a direction of looking at a top tier team and just kind of stealing the key pieces from their front office and or coaching staff, you have the Chiefs, Borgonzi for GM, Nagy, Spagnuolo, right? Offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, bringing one of those two combinations over and letting that be the source of truth for the New York Jets moving forward. You have the Vikings, where you have Grigson at GM. Then you have Flores as head coach and McCown as his potential OC, or even if things get crazy here, McCown as head coach and Grigson as the GM. You have the Lions, where you have Eric Spielman at GM and then Aaron Glenn at head coach. You have the Bills, that kind of has two separate combinations here. You have Gaines at GM, Brian Gaines, and then Joe Brady as head coach. Or you can have Brian Gaines at GM and Mike Vrabel as the GM head coach combination. And, they go back to their Titan days. Then you have, with the Titans specifically, John Robinson at GM and then Mike Vrabel at head coach. So in the ideal world, I don't think stealing multiple people from a specific team is necessarily the ideal path. Now, if all of those guys are qualified, if they've all excelled in their roles, then it is what it is, and it just happens to be that those stars align. But ideally, I would want us to identify, here is our top three candidates for each respective position: general manager, head coach. Here's where we see some of the potential overlapping relationships, if there are any. If not, let's start playing Matchmaker and figuring out what's the best combination of these guys that we can get, because I would prefer to take maybe the second best GM and the second or third best head coach that feel like they have an elite working relationship with each other, right? Shared vision, shared roster building philosophy, etc., rather than the top combination of both. And these guys are going to be at each other's neck, before the year is out, if things aren't going the way they expected from a win-loss standpoint. So there's positives and negatives to each of these, right? If you want to talk about grabbing a group of guys from one of these teams that have all had relationships, they all should work, then you're talking about kind of having a learning curve trend here, right? Guys don't have to learn each other. Guys don't have to necessarily walk on the eggshells when it comes to personality and just building those relationships within the building. Then you also talk about some of those deeper levels of, okay, what do we expect a roster to look like for the New York Jets, right? We know building the culture is going to be a huge thing. What mental components for players are we looking at? What, from a pro personnel standpoint, what are the backgrounds we're looking for? What are the skill sets that we need? A lot of those should be immediate shared alignments based on where they're coming from, where they're going, and of course, what they have at their disposal between current talent and what they want to do in the draft and in free agency. When you talk about grabbing the best individual guys and bringing them together, then it's more of a learning experience, right? We don't have a shared vision. We don't have a shared philosophy. We don't have a shared working relationship. We don't have a shared understanding of the skill sets that we're looking for. We don't have a shared understanding of how we want our scouting department to be set up, right? What are the key traits that we're looking for? What are the key abilities that we're looking for? Do we prioritize SEC teams, or do we prioritize Big Ten the way they've been rising in playoffs? There's going to be a lot of those question marks, but what I like about those individual pairings as opposed to the pairings from teams that would all be coming over together is that, one, you kind of it kills the hive mindset, right? Now you're not working off of tribal knowledge or anything because you guys have all come from the same place. You are starting to identify, here's what I really like about what you have going on, what your thought process is, your ability to work through some of these issues. Here's what I have, here's what we like together. And then you start immediately weeding out and killing. Here's the ideas that just flat out, I don't expect to work, right? And you can talk through those things, figure out the mindset, where they're coming from, if there's some prior relationships, prior examples that they may be able to share to kind of get them on board of where they've seen, that said process work. And that is something that I think would be so much more effective than just bringing over a tried and true process from a different organization, right? You can almost make the argument that while Saleh didn't bring everybody under the sun over from the 49ers, he brought LaFleur, he brought the system over from the 49ers, and then, of course, he started flooding in a ton of talent from his prior relationships with the 49ers, with Jacksonville, with these other teams that he came up in the game with. So not to say that one example means that it'll never work, but if you're talking about a true reset, I think this is the best way to go about it. So ultimately, let me know what you guys think here. What's your kind of working process on not only who your favorite candidates from each list are, but would you take a pair or trio like the Vikings team, or would you go best individual guys and see if you can match them up? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.